Hi guys, I'm a Forester here with another pen video. Now, I consider myself still fairly new to the pen hobby, but I'm trying to learn from other collections and apply that to my pen collecting. Take knives for instance. I'm like many of y'all that I started out buying entry-level knives, mainly Kershaws. I still have some of my favorites like this Kershaw Skyline, but many of my initial purchases are long gone. I moved up from Kershaws to Spydercos, which cover a much wider range of prices, and most of my Spydercos are still in my collection, but some, like the Police for instance, I decided to sell at some point. From Spydercos I moved up to higher priced brands like Benchmades and ZTs, and from there I moved up to my Grail knives like Chris Reeve, Hinderer, and Klotzley's. Now this video isn't about knives, it's about pens, but I decided to apply a lesson that I learned from knife collecting to pen collecting. And that's this, to be very selective on the pens that I buy, because I don't want to end up with a bunch of pens that I don't use and eventually I decide to sell. Each pen that I buy, I want to be a notable pen that I'll use for a specific purpose. Now, I may only buy 1 or 2 pens a year, and my collection may not reach 20 or 25 pens in all. We'll just have to see. So what's so special about my latest purchase? And it's this one. It's a Pilot Custom 823. Well, I really liked the nib of the Pilot Metropolitan that I bought a few months ago, but I wanted a higher quality Pilot that would be my workhorse pen. I researched it online and I found a video by the Pen Habit that really caught my attention. He rated this pen, the Pilot Custom 823, as his top workhorse pen. Now, this is one of Pilot's top offerings in the US market. The Pen Habit sold me on it, I went out and bought it, and I've been using it daily for the past month. Let's go to the tabletop for a closer look at this pen. All right, here we are at the tabletop, and the 823 comes in what I consider above average packaging. There's an outer sleeve that protects this inner box. And on the outer sleeve are the details about the pen. This is the Pilot Custom 823. It's amber colored, which there's also a smoke version, and I got the medium nib. The outer sleeve does a good job of protecting this inner box, which is a sturdy box. It's a very large box for the contents that you get. Inside the box is some cushion to protect the pen further, and here's the piece de resistance. So there's the Pilot Custom 823. Nestled in its bed in its presentation position with a bottle of Pilot Namiki blue ink. There's also some paperwork which I took out beforehand. There's this caution about disassembling the nib neck assembly, that you might do some harm. And then there's also a use and care guide, and I'll pause that just for a second, or you can pause it as I scroll down through there in case you want to read that. All right, let's take the pen out and look at it a little bit closer. Now, the overall look of this 823 I think is very conservative. I would call it traditional and classy. I bought this amber colored pen because I wanted to match it up with a really nice brown ink. I don't have that combination in my collection yet. And I'll say more about the ink in the writing sample. Now, it's a basic cigar-shaped pen with simple rounded ends. The cap end right here is shorter, stubbier than the barrel end, which is more elongated. The clip, I think, is very classy. It's short. It says Pilot on the clip. Yeah, it's not one to focus right now, but I think you can see that. And I think the tension is appropriate for this pen. I don't have any trouble putting it in my shirt pocket, which is where that counts. There's a gold colored band on each end, one here and one down here, and then there's 2 bands in the middle. And there's some writing on the middle band. Let me read that to you. So that says Pilot, made in Japan, and then Custom 823. Now this is a screw cap, and it unscrews, let's count them, that's 1 3/4, so 1 3/4 turns. The barrel of the pen is cylindrical. It has no perceptible taper here along the main part of the barrel. The threads for the cap to screw onto are not sharp at all. There's a very subtle step down, and there's another gold band right here. Now the section tapers very subtly, and there's a small lip at the end of it to aid in writing. I never hold it that close to the nib when I'm writing, so that doesn't really impact me at all. Now, any pen that's called a workhorse pen has to have a great nib, and this pen is no exception. The 823 has a 14 karat gold nib that writes, I'd say, as smoothly as any pen in my collection. And since it's a Japanese pen, I went with the medium nib. It puts out a little more ink to lubricate the writing, but it doesn't put out as wide a line, say, as my Lamy 2000 medium nib. Now this 823 is the first pen in my collection that has a vacuum filling system, and I filled it initially with this Namiki blue ink that came with it. The vacuum filling mechanism worked great. You unscrew this piston cap right here, you pull it all the way out, immerse the pen in the ink of your choice, and then push in on the piston. And when the piston reaches the end of its travel, it releases a vacuum that's been created, and ink is drawn up into the barrel. It holds 2.5 ml of ink. Now, I've been trying to write out this Namiki blue ink so I can fill it with the ink of my choice that I want to pair with this pen, which is this Mont Blanc Toffee Brown ink. But I still have plenty of blue ink remaining in the barrel of this pen, so I'll have to give you a review of the Mont Blanc Toffee Brown later. Now, I want to give you some quick size comparisons. And the first pen I want to compare it to is another Pilot in my collection, and it's this Pilot Metropolitan. The Pilot Metropolitan is shorter and also much slimmer. The other pen that I want to compare it to is one of my favorite pens, and it's this TWSBI Eco. The TWSBI Eco is a little bit smaller, and it's a little bit more slender. Okay, and now it's time for the writing sample. And this is going to be a fairly long writing sample, so I'm going to try to move pretty quickly through this. But this, of course, is the Pilot. Pilot Custom 823. It has a 14 karat gold nib, and that is a medium nib. All right, let's do some scribbling. Look at the line width, and I'm not going to try to get any line variation out of it, but this is a buttery smooth nib. You might hear a little feedback, but I can't tell much at all. And as far as wetness, it puts out a good bit of ink. I'd say this is one of the wetter nibs that I have. Now, this is going to be, I hope, my workhorse pen. And as I started thinking about a quote, I wanted it to be about a workhorse, and I found a selection from a book that was comparing a workhorse to a showhorse pen. So this is a workhorse pen, but is it a showhorse pen? Well, the quote is more about people than it is about pens, but here goes. It's a long one, but I think it's interesting. A workhorse chooses work assignments, a workhorse chooses work assignments that are a good match for their strengths. On the other hand, a showhorse Goes after high visibility projects. Okay, here's another one. A Workhorse tends to avoid. The Spotlight. How about a Showhorse? I think you know. They revel in it. A Workhorse delivers valuable results to the organization. A Showhorse, on the other hand, is really only concerned Okay. A Workhorse delivers valuable results to the organization. A Showhorse spends more time networking and promoting their accomplishments. I think we're all a combination of Workhorse and Showhorse. This Pilot Custom 823, I would say, is probably equal parts Workhorse and Showhorse. I like the way it looks. I'm probably about 95% Workhorse. There's not much showy about me. So what do I like, and is there anything that I don't like about the Custom 823? Well, there's a lot to like. Number one is that buttery smooth nib. I like the larger size of the pen. It fits my hand very well, and I like the classy looks of it. I also like the large reservoir of ink, although it didn't allow me to show you the toffee brown ink that I want to match with this pen. And I also like that vacuum filling system. There is one thing, and only one thing, that's been somewhat annoying to me about this pen. Now, you didn't see it in this writing sample, but I've had some hard starting issues with the pen at times. And I actually delayed making this review until I could figure out what the issue was. Now, I believe it's related to whether this vacuum filling piston is screwed down all the way or opened up slightly. I had understood that the pen would write for a good while without opening up this piston to allow more ink to flow down to the nib reservoir. What I'm doing now, though, is opening up the ink flow any time that I'm writing more than just a signature or such. It isn't a problem, but it has been something that I've had to figure out. Comment, if you would, below if you've had similar problems with your 823. So there you have it. The Pilot Custom 823 is going to be a workhorse in my pen stable for years to come. Comment below what your workhorse pen is and whether you're a Workhorse or a Showhorse. Y'all take care.